is over. Planning commission is back in order. It is 8:34. I got it right that time. All right, we are now moving on. We will continue until at the latest 9:15, and then we will lay it over for further discussion to the next meeting. Unless we finish it earlier. Housing programs.
Sure. So the first question is whether or not the Planning Commission would like to give feedback on housing activities. We received 2 comments, both yes. I'll get a quick answer that we would like to proceed with moving forward. I'm seeing head nods, so I'll say yes on that one. So then question 7 is strengths. What do you think are the village's greatest strengths when it comes to housing? In the space below, please provide a brief description of up to 3 of your ideas and observations. 2 comments were submitted, so we have a total of 6, so I'll just read those quickly. A diverse variety of architectural styles along with single-family, duplex, and multifamily dwellings. Mix of housing types such as apartments, single-family homes, etc. Walkable neighborhoods in close proximity to the lake and river, parks and recreation, and a short ride to cultural attractions in downtown. High percentage of owner-occupied homes. Good schools for now that make the village attractive to young families or those who recognize a good school district will help maintain property values. And amenities within walking distance such as restaurants, shopping, etc.
Oh, okay. So the question is, what do you think is our village's greatest strengths in terms of housing? Commissioner Kudo.
As a matter of curiosity, I thought we had a low percentage of owner-occupied homes.
I moved here from Europe, so
Oh, okay.
compared to my life in Berlin, this is a very high percentage of
Yes.
owner-occupied.
We have about 50-50, so, right, home ownership.
I
A little higher for the
50
rentals.
52 for rental. 52.
It is, it's around there, but close enough.
But how does that compare to?
And that's on a unit basis, right? It's on a unit basis, not a parcel basis. So obviously a lot of the rental units are all in one parcel, right? So the neighborhoods themselves probably have higher owner occupancy in terms of the percentage of blocks.
Like single
So
family
our diversity in
That
terms,
makes sense.
right? Our diversity in terms of the mix is probably located along the 2 commercial corridors. If we remove those, we probably are in line with other communities. I don't know. I could look at those statistics. But I think a lot of what we have in terms of that renter capacity is within
Except
a block or
duplexes.
2 of Oakland and Capitol.
Except you're talking about duplexes. Duplexes definitely are scattered.
And Wilson Drive obviously has
So-
rentals as well.
But even a lot of the duplexes, doesn't the owner live in?
I don't know what the percentages of owner occupied versus not, but we do have a lot, so that'd be great to know.
Yeah, I know you talked briefly earlier about
But it's more than.
changing
places.
duplexes to single families, but I'm sort of curious as to how many duplexes there are
How many have we
versus
converted?
single families versus multi-family units.
On Thursday night, the CDA will be hearing a presentation from our housing consultant on their early findings of the analysis. So I will have more information at that point, but once again, the public is welcome to attend at 6:30 in Village Center. That will be posted online Friday morning. So if you reach me on Friday morning, I can send you a link to it. So we will have more data on that. So that is part of the reason why this strategic planning is happening, because I want to have that statistic and data with them so that they also know the answer. So
Would you mind sending it to us,
sure, I will make a note to send it to the Planning Commission.
That'd be great.
please?
Yes.
It will be really interesting when we get the results of the 2020 census to see whether our assumptions about housing occupancy are correct as far as owner occupation. But we've had some interim census.
Yep, the ACS provides estimates every year on a yearly basis, and it is an estimate with a margin of error. The 2020 census numbers probably won't be billed for 3 or 4 years afterwards, probably. So, but yeah, our market study hopefully will have used and verified those estimates, so we can set an updated number for current.
Yeah, on the line, it says 45.7 for 2017. Down from 46.6 for 2016.
Are you talking about home ownership?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, strengths. I think strength would be that we have a broad range of affordability, or at least we have had a broad range of affordability in our housing stock.
And we have good housing stock.
Right. Well maintained, I want to say, or well maintained. I mean, people may say some of it's
Well-built.
not really.
And there's some real classic craftsmanship. It's very desirable.
Yeah. That is correct.
Is that Charlie?
Those are the right words.
And it is diverse even in style, right? Correct? I mean, there's not like all, like if you go to, I'm from Florida, but you go to suburban Florida, it's like all the same color, you have like 5 colors to pick from, they all have the same roof line, they're exactly the same. So this, for any older city suburb or older city suburb, the housing stock is so much more diverse in character and style. And that's something that I think people appreciate.
I'm not actually sure if this is a housing space per se, but I feel like when people are looking for a place to live, some people find value in sidewalks and streetlights. There are very few communities in the Milwaukee area that has sidewalks and streetlights. And so, again, it kind of goes back to that, human capital connection. But having that, I feel like is a housing connection because you have the ability to walk to your next door neighbor, have your kids play, and on the sidewalk, or ride their bike on the sidewalk. Where there's places in Milwaukee that don't have sidewalks or streetlights.
Going with that, I also think it's nice that the houses are on short blocks. The location of the housing is in close proximity to institutions and commercial entities or units. And recreation, right? Parks and, there's in the housing stock is in close proximity to other uses and amenities. Yes, Commissioner Dan.
One of the wonderful comments on here was the proximity to downtown for cultural attractions, but I think one of the reasons why we're a bedroom community, which could be a great thing, is because we are close to downtown. Being 6 minutes away from downtown on a bad day is pretty sweet. And I think that's one of the huge attractions to living here is you get the sidewalks, you get the streetlights, but you still have almost that city feel with the safety of a suburb.
Yeah.
And I think that's a huge advantage.
Yeah, for those of us who work or worked downtown, that was a consideration when we lived. Close to the freeway access.
Yep. So proximity to internal uses of the village and external, other municipalities.
Also the lake.
And
Yes,
river,
amenities, yes, the lake.
you're close to work, close to nature.
What about the maintenance of the housing stock? As you had alluded to, inspections, we're small enough that we can really keep an eye out on the maintenance has been pretty well kept.
I think it's spotty.
Yeah.
It's spotty?
Oh,
I'd say it's spotty by the university, but that's just 10.
No, I think it's
No,
just
I think
spotty in
it's,
general. I can't ever make rhyme or reason why some houses look the way they do. And then you get notices from like little things, you know what I mean? Like I feel like it's spotty.
yes, very spotty. Whereas there's lots of crumbling
Really?
porches and stairs and handrails.
Well, I don't know about the rest of the village, but the house we live in our block, are almost 100 years old. And having been there 30 years, we say we will have rebuilt that house from the basement to the chimney by the time we're done. So, and that's where taxes come in, because even when your house is paid off, the more we're paying to the village of school at stake in taxes, the less discretionary funds that seniors especially have to make those wanted improvements. Everybody knows what their house needs, but you have to have the funds to do it.
Turnover. That goes to housing turnover, correct? Meaning how fast homes turn over. Like, and I'm not saying I know the answer to this, but if you are a long-term resident, you may say that you've done more improvements, or you continually do improvements, or you may say those are the ones that are the least maintained. I don't know, but I wonder what that answer is when we talk to the housing consultants. And is it an asset, or that we have less turnover in housing ownership, or is it maybe that's an asset? I don't know.
Well, there isn't, because we're so small, there aren't a lot of homes on the market at any one time. So maybe they don't stay on the real estate market as long as maybe like in the city of
So
Milwaukee.
desirability of the housing,
Stays on the market.
and that could be why people buy houses here, because they know they can sell them fast and keep their investment. So the,
Those are good.
the ability to maintain value,
I mean, even after '08, Shorewood values didn't change, but they did a lot of
Right.
places. I mean, it's a solid, as long as everything continues, it's
Right.
a solid long-term investment.
that is a positive. Anything else? If not, we're moving on.
I think, just real quick, I think the condition of the blocks themselves, when you're driving down the street, they're tree lined, they're nice, they're in good, generally in good working order. There's been a lot of improvements to this. The quality of the streets, certainly the quality of some alleys.
Sidewalks.
But, generally speaking, I think, we've done a nice job as a village of making the village look nice on the things that the village itself has.
I would agree. All right.
Moving on, issues and challenges. What do you think are the biggest issues or challenges facing the village when it comes to housing? Provide 3 in the spaces below. Once again, 2 are submitted for each. So property taxes are too high. Aging homes need ongoing maintenance, but as taxes increase, there are less discretionary funds to work on homes. With a deduction cap of $10,000 in federal income taxes, our taxes make Shorewood a less desirable community compared to those other parts of Milwaukee County. And the communities just across county lines. I know several people who have moved from Shorewood either to Fox Point or Bayside in the last 3 years because of rising taxes and/or because the school district could not or would not meet their children's educational needs. Ability to expand housing due to lack of open lots. Housing choices are limited for seniors who no longer want the burden of maintaining a home but don't want an apartment. Affordable condos that allow pets would be attractive to current residents as they age, and to parents of residents who would like to move back from warmer parts of the U.S. to be near their children, but they think they can't afford to live here anymore. Village rules that limit housing or live-work innovations, such as not allowing for spaces over detached garages. Not enough single-story homes for those who like to eliminate stairs as we age while still owning our homes. That's another reason why someone who's retired would consider moving to Fox Point. And finding the right balance of commercial and residential when it does come to new developments.
A lot in there.
All right. So we're on challenges, correct?
Yep, issues and challenges.
I'm going to reiterate affordability and lack of senior affordable housing.
I'd second the affordability. I think that as the taxes go up, I feel like what I see is more and more wealthy families moving in. Like, so when the housing turns over, it's actually like higher income families moving in to be able to afford not only the home but the taxes. So the affordability is, I think that if the taxes continue at the rise they're going, I think you'll see a shift in Shorewood in terms of the population.
The diversity population. I agree.
So you brought up affordable
Mhm.
senior housing,
Mhm.
can you expand on that?
Yeah, so, just as Bart has said, in some of those comments, that seniors need 2 things. As they get on fixed income, the taxes keep rising. And so they can afford their mortgage, they don't have a mortgage anymore, but as the taxes rises, they can't afford to stay in their single-family home necessarily, some, not all. And so where can they go here? So we really need housing that is accommodating both physically for seniors. So I would say that's a separate bullet point, but like how do you retrofit an existing home to be senior friendly? What are the programs there for? Because 30% of our population is going to be seniors over 55 in less than 10 years. That's what's predicted. So it's like, well, they need their housing to be retrofitted in order for them to stay there, or they need to move somewhere, and if they want to stay in Shorewood, where do they move? And so when I say senior affordability, I just mean a structure, a complex, an apartment, it could be town, I don't know what the form is, but where it's easy for them to mobility, like so it's built for seniors, but that it's also affordable, what they could have afforded without a mortgage, which is not the same as what you and I can afford if we're still in the workforce. So the considerations of what a senior who's going to be moving out of their home
Right.
would need to stay in Shorewood is what I'm talking about.
So there's a follow-up question. As we see seniors aging out of their homes, or choosing to age out of their, choosing to move their home.
Well, some they do, and some they
Sure.
have to.
But how large is the generation behind this generation of seniors? So
I mean, how long, yeah.
if we do senior housing, we do affordable housing, are we gonna have a surplus of senior or affordable
I
housing?
think we're all living longer. Okay.
And sure, but, you know, using data,
Mhm.
what are we looking at for, you know, folks who are in their 40s, 50s now, 40s, 50s now?
You're assuming it's just this generation, I mean, this population, I would assume.
Yeah, I mean,
you're asking-
are we changing,
Yep,
are we
I
changing
understand.
are we changing a
Unless
number
they all
of
die
things?
off.
Well, I mean,
Sorry.
at some
But
point,
you
we're all
also
gonna
can
go,
recruit-
so.
You also can recruit then those, the elderly, to keep the diversity.
So then the question is, do we
Maybe
want to be a
redefine
senior community?
what we're looking for is
Mhm.
smaller footprint homes, which either they're first-time homes, or they're senior homes, or they're more
That are
income
affordable.
affordability. If you can just make smaller footprint homes, that you don't need to have two high-paying jobs in order to live in Shorewood, and you don't have to rent.
Or granny flats, or, it doesn't matter to me the form, all I'm saying is,
So you,
And I
who
would
lives
live
there
I'd be happy to,
can vary.
get carried out of here in the end, but,
I see what you're saying.
but I mean, it's,
So think about this, even if they all die off, just say, we all die at one point,
I mean, it's gonna happen.
but then Milwaukee and Mequon and just surrounding communities have housing that seniors go into, we're not gonna attract those people either. So,
So,
yeah, we might not have them now, I'm just saying, it just adds a diversity level that we do not have at this moment.
so the, I guess, devil's advocate here, so I don't get yelled at. Do we want to make it a point of village policy that we're trying to attract seniors in the long run? If we're saying that we're not doing this and they could go to Milwaukee or Mequon or
I would
whatever.
rephrase it, is what I'm saying, is I'm not trying to attract them, I'm trying to maintain our diversity of our population.
We don't want to push out rooms.
Again, this doesn't look happy, I don't want to rework this somewhere else, but.
We won't. It's not a matter.
I have a question, like, so the Harbor Chase and those other things are not affordable? Is that the deal?
Well, Harbor Chase, one of them has
Where that
10
goes.
units that are full and have waiting lists, because that's the income level that people who are seniors that are looking to move out of their houses can, there's a bigger demand for.
So there's a bigger demand for Harbor Chase
The 10,
housing.
the 10 units
It's
that
so
are,
confusing.
I don't know which one it is, but there's 10 units, I think it's in the Light Horse, that are lower income than the rest of
But
them.
they're not senior necessarily.
They're not senior,
Right.
yeah, we don't have any
So
senior except the
correct,
Oaks.
Harbor Chase and the Oaks do not, to my knowledge, have any affordability
No.
restrictions or requirements on them.
No, they do not.
What is the cost? I mean, I
It's
don't.
very high.
I think we looked a few years ago with my grandfather, and it was like $6 grand a month.
Yeah, that's Harbor Chase. Oaks is less.
Harvard is consistent.
Yes.
Yeah.
Where
Yes, yes.
Penny Whistle used to be for
Yes.
those of us who
Yeah.
were.
So anyways, that's for assisted living, but Oaks is, I mean, and even Light Horse, I mean, but the elderly are choosing those types of development, even if it's not geared towards seniors, because it's one floor, you know, they have elevators, it's more conducive, but now you need those with some affordability factor, so that they can, some of our residents that
Are
can't.
those filled?
No.
So
The
at
10
some point, will the market dictate that they have to lower their pricing to?
Well, sure, if they can afford their mortgage,
Well,
and with lower prices, but otherwise they change it into something different, like no senior restrictions for the Oaks. That's my gut, would be I would take away this restriction.
Oh, I see.
So there's many things you can do.
No.
Keep in mind, like Harbor Chase is assisted living, memory care. The Oaks was for active seniors ages 55 and up, and maybe they're, I think they're too expensive, but, or, you know, this is for pretty high income. But they are also getting a 23% of developers' cost rebate on their property tax in the village. So we subsidize that, those luxury apartments.
1/4 of the construction cost was paid with,
Yeah.
rebated with the village.
So there's like active seniors, that could be somebody who's 89, like my dad, who's still living in the same own house and driving. And then there's, you know, active seniors ages 55 and up. So whatever that age range is, when they're looking, for whatever reason, they don't want to have a house, or they want
They
to
can't
back.
sign those.
Wisconsin reads, and Shorewood especially, as too expensive to live here. And so if you've got to pay off house to go into now an apartment you don't own, to give away $1,400 or $1,800 a month, space you don't own. The Eastwood condos, great, so they don't take pets. And people who have all ages look at pets, they're not going to give them wages so they can buy a condo there. So that's where I was thinking, you need, you know, something, so you don't need, say you don't need assisted living, but you don't want to mow your lawn and.
What are those 10 lighthouse
Wilson Drive,
units?
those Wilson Drive apartments are not attractive to seniors?
They're not, well, there's two things, the amenity, I mean, they don't, no elevators, I mean, they're, mm-mm. So I'm just thinking like affordable senior housing, I don't know what form that takes, so that was my comment, is that
Yeah.
it's just, it's subsidized. Every affordable housing unit is subsidized because the market does not subsidize. You know, the market cannot handle that lower rent. So it's subsidized whether it's by tax credits, by the state, by the village through a TID, by municipality, but affordable housing, truly affordable housing is a market failure, and therefore that's why it needs a subsidy, and I have no problem with that, yes.
Like, I'm still learning here. So, you're talking about smaller footprint homes. I'm just wondering, so earlier on, we were talking, and in this description, there are no more lots to develop. So you're either you're tearing something down, or you're redeveloping.
Vacant lots, correct.
Or you're changing, right? So, as I think about the village and all the different homes in the village, most of them are two-story homes. So, I guess,
With an elevator for seniors.
you know, just a,
I'm just saying if you were a senior retrofitting it,
you would add an elevator.
you'd add something ADA
Or
compliant.
those chair things.
Or the chair lifts, or.
Again, I wonder, how do we do it, how have other people done it? How have other villages or municipalities done it to make it work where you're either subsidizing or you're retrofitting and you're subsidizing some portion of that?
It's usually subsidized.
I mean, how do you make it work with a housing stock that is on average 100 years old? Or roughly, or
Well, let me just respond to that. So there are programs out there, like even the fire departments are changing their methods for falls because they're getting way more falls. And so people start, you know, once the trend starts happening where people are getting older, you start changing your program. So municipalities out there are putting in, just like we did for duplex conversions or attic conversions, you could do a retrofit of an existing house, and here's $2,000 subsidy that you can utilize for that, and we'll help subsidize for that. But you are correct, most of the time, for senior housing, it is a market failure if you want affordable, if you want that $5,000 rent or whatever, you can do anything you want.
Sure.
But to make it affordable to a senior that's on a fixed income, that's not high, and still make it in an existing house or in a smaller footprint, or it's still land's gonna be expensive, usually it will require some form of subsidy.
Okay.
What about, and I don't really,
But it can be done without it, I'm sure, but it just,
I never used the senior resource center, so I don't know, but like, I feel like, you know, with the housing as old as it is, and it always is more challenging to retrofit and do things, like, are there like village-funded resources that you could like say, here's how you take a craftsman, and here are recommendations for making the house more senior accessible?
yes, there are pamphlets, I don't know if they come from the village, but that are filtered through the village, the fire department has them, because of the falls, they work with the health department on it, so yeah, that's out there.
So the senior resource
It's just
would
not
know to
reason-
give it out to people and.
I'm pretty sure from what I remember. Mhm.
The central business district master plan, among its various proposals, suggestions, there was one or two properties on the north, on Capitol, west of Oakland, but on the north side of the street, and they had proposed redoing that as like a 2 to 3 story building for seniors who don't need the care that Harbor Chase can provide, again.
Like Oaks, the Oaks,
Yeah, except not high rise and not very big, you know.
they either
So
needs
maybe
a
some of
subsidy.
those scattered throughout the village.
Sure, but it needs to be pretty high rent if it is going to be low height. So
Yeah, that's.
if you want to keep it affordable, as I've mentioned, you probably need a subsidy.
I think
Where are the owners on this? You know, if I own a multi-unit, I mean, and I know we're in the beginning of this, and we're sort of talking tonight, but where are the owners of all these multi,
Who owns the Oaks?
well, not just that, but who owns all these apartment buildings, and are they
The small
even
ones?
remotely interested in any of this?
You mean selling?
No, like retrofitting their buildings and having senior building, portable senior housing, as opposed to whoever's living there now. Has anyone had any conversations with any of them about this?
I mean, I think that, and this is just perhaps my opinion, that gets to the point where the village is so desirable that they don't need to do these things to attract
Right.
seniors. They can get someone else to move in there.
That's exactly.
The question would be if the village finds that to be a problem and says,
Or-
we're losing all these units to people that are, pushing out seniors or whatever,
Mhm.
therefore we must make some action to find a housing program for that particular group of people. That's where this whole strategy is coming in. But to your point, if I'm a property owner and I can rent it or sell it to someone else higher, that's gonna be their number one probably goal. The issue is if we as the village can have any sort of impact on that market by either offering an incentive or by offering, assistance in
Sure, okay.
marketing or whatnot, but
Desired outcome.
I think the desirability of the village oftentimes is the challenge that underlies these problems because rents go up, prices go up because they can get it,
And price is high.
right?
I mean, also, before we're talking about whether we can attract more, because what you're saying, the
Yeah, that we
subsidies are
have.
the only way to do that, maybe we should focus more on how we keep
That's
the
what,
ones we have, because that's something
that's
we
what my
can
intent
do, and
was.
that's related to taxes and economic development, because people are leaving because maybe the amenities they want here are non-existent, and then they're also leaving because it's getting unaffordable, you've worked hard, you've paid off your mortgage, and at the end of the day, you can either pay $1,000 a year in taxes or sell your house for $400K and move somewhere else.
I think what Bart said though is, and that was my intent, but he was saying later, once the old people all, once there's not as high a population for that, what I did, I said.
Exactly what you said.
It is what I said. But anyways,
Like the
but,
Grim Reaper.
no, but it makes sense to look into the future. But what I'm saying is, and what Bart's saying is, the market is gonna be the market. And so right now we have a strong market in Shorewood and land values are high. And so if you leave it up to the market, we're watching what happens and taxes can go up, and then the people that can afford the taxes can move in, the people that don't move out. And so if you just go back to that's why you do planning, what are the values that you want to maintain, and if one of the values of the majority of the community is to keep the diversity of your residents, which includes elderly, that population, and housing for that population is rarely not subsidized. And so that is a government decision based on a value that comes from planning. And so it doesn't have to happen. Shorewood's going to continue on, and our rents will go up, and we'll still have, I believe, we'll still have tenants. We're not going to have all this huge vacancy in our housing. The question is it a value? And so my only thing that I said is, what's an outcome for housing? I would like to see, I think it is a value for myself, that I believe it adds to the diversity of our population. I think that Shorewood is more, from what I've heard from the residents, cares more about people than other communities that I've worked in. And so I believe that would be a positive aspect to our community to provide at least one, if it's a multifamily unit, in one of these where an old bank used to be or something like that. I think it would be beneficial to subsidize a senior housing project that would allow some of our seniors to age in place. That's my value.
When the market recession hit, I think was when some of those buildings on Kensington and Oakland went up, and one of them was intended at first to be a condominium building and switched to apartments.
Right.
Because of financing, they couldn't get it. So that might be one thing where, is it possible to have some of those buildings that are apartments converted to condos? So
Very rare
those who want to,
that goes backwards like
yeah,
that.
who want to stay homeowners but don't want a big home, could move into a condominium. That might be more appealing than renting. Or have the village have a program to assist people in turning a duplex
That's perfect.
into 2 condominiums.
Condominiums.
Yeah.
Mackenzie talked about that, and I thought it was the greatest program ever. Yes, that's a great idea.
What
If you want.
defines affordable senior housing? Like, what is that?
I don't know, I need to see the market study. But whatever it is, whatever that is, there is an actual statistic there, I just don't know what it is. of what they.
So
claim
there is a
affordable.
government,
State
you know, it's 60% of the county median income or 80%, it's whether you're. The issue with that is though, we are a very small portion of that county, and so what's
But there's different
standard,
also levels.
right, what's standard, right, so the 60, 80 are the levels typically that happens, but what's standard in Shorewood, I would argue, is probably not what is standard in the county. So within this study, we specifically said, what does affordability mean to Shorewood? And so the survey asked people what that meant. Typically, 30% of your housing, or 30% of your gross income, no more than 30% of gross income should be spent on housing. So depending on what your income is, that defines affordability for some people. For government programs, it's often defined as a percentage of 60 or 80. So it can be various things to various people, and I think part of the reason this housing study is being undertaken is that some people think affordable is one thing, some people think that's another thing. When the village talks about affordability, we don't know who we're referencing, so it's not an easy
There are,
answer.
like you said, there are standards and they're based on the county, so, and tax credits, which are programs that have been in existence forever from the state, it's like 80% of the median income.
Right,
And the
correct.
municipality can pick, when they say affordability, they get to pick which one. Like, you know, and so do developers, but if they say we want affordable housing, when I was in Milwaukee, you could say, that means this, and we'll give a subsidy for that, or we'll whatever, we'll help to make that happen. In Shorewood, it probably would be the least, like 80%, and in Central City, Milwaukee, it's the lowest, you know, like, that's what we mean by affordable, so.
I just, I don't think that our affordability crisis in Shore, if you want to say crisis, but our affordability issue in Shorewood is unique to Shorewood, not for Milwaukee. It's really a nationwide issue, that housing affordability has become unaffordable for Americans all throughout the country.
Because of taxes.
Not just because of taxes, but because, I mean, home values nationwide are pre-2008 levels, and so, but incomes have not risen at that same rate. So, you know, I think that some of this is also a little bit more like a macro issue than just specific to Shorewood. So, I mean, I'm not saying that it's not something that's happening in Shorewood, but I think that some of that is also related to some of the more global economic issues within the country.
Yeah, for sure, there was a presentation about APA in Wisconsin, the APA Wisconsin meeting in Eau Claire that gave the breakout of other costs are rising more, if not, you know, so the new generation has student debt, therefore they can't provide down payments, so that it's even more unaffordable. Medical costs are increasing, childcare is higher than it ever used to be, right? So a lot of the attention gets focused on housing because it's a big ticket item, but when all those other ticket items add up, transportation costs, everything else, so it is hard to.
Well, there's two parts of housing, though. There's the housing costs, which is the macro thing that you're talking about, and then the pre-2008 levels, and then there's taxes, and that's the two things that you have to pay as a resident. So if you're a senior, in your home, which is majority, there's a lot of them here that I hear from that have paid off their mortgage, that left a house, but if the taxes keep rising, then, and they can't afford those, then what happens, right? So it's a macro and a micro. I don't know the answer to that, but.
Well, whether you're at the beginning or the end of home ownership, starting out or you know,
You
paying
don't
off,
houses if you're renting.
when you're, you know, looking at our taxes compared to Fox Point or Beside or Brookfield, that's where something in the village and the school district, you know, could make us more competitive. I mean, the village has done a great job the last couple of years in keeping our tax increase as low as possible. And I don't think any of us know what's gonna, the referendum from the school district is gonna mean, you know, the next several years, but.
But I do agree with Trustee Carpenter that Social Security's gone away. I mean, there's just not the same, I mean, for seniors, there's just not the same resources of income that they used to have. So it is macro, you see it everywhere, and Shorewood just does not have that right now. So I feel it's a market, it's a failure in the market right now here, and maybe other places too. Anything else?
You want 9, 10, or 9, 15, what was your? So I do have a couple things I need to touch base with people on, so we can keep going as much as we want to, but I just want to make sure I get 2 or 3 minutes in there.
Does anyone else have any other biggest issues in the housing market? Barb, you hit on one, I don't know if people took notes, but condominiums, rather homeownership options rather than just rentals. New construction, is that what you were saying?
New or conversion?
Or conversion?
That's really tough from a liability standpoint.
I know.
I mean, condos are so litigious. The firm that I used to work for stopped touching them because.
I actually heard that from one of our biggest developers, that was the answer.
That's even worse. If you can build a condo right in the first place, that's one thing, but you're never gonna convert correctly, that you won't get a lawsuit.
Unless you own it, unless it's like an owner occupied duplex, right?
Yeah, and your neighbor doesn't complain about noise or anything like that.
So I have heard from some people that are worried about the home values. I know we've talked a lot about how home values, but I think again it goes to the disparate nature of the types of homes. So I don't think it affects everyone equally, but I have a lot of friends that are concerned that their home values will go down based on not just the taxes, but school reputation.
So home
And if
values-
interest rates go up at some point too.
True. So home values declining for various reasons. Okay. Want to do one more?
So we could try to tackle maybe these, I can read them all together, so, similar to economic development, what's the most important thing the village should start doing as it relates to housing? Could do better in terms of housing and should stop doing, so there's 3 arms in that. So the first one, what it should start doing, we have 2 answers, find a location and way to bring down housing costs. That might mean providing assistance to turn duplexes into condos or attracting developers to redevelop a site for housing meant for lower and or middle income residents and keeping property taxes as low as possible will attract first-time buyers and those looking to stay in Shorewood. And then secondly, focus on single-family starter homes and affordable housing. So those are the 2 that were offered for what the village could start doing.
I would say stop subsidizing market rate housing. That would be my biggest, I say.
And on that level, it also says stop subsidizing luxury housing. Instead, provide a grant or low-cost loan for seniors who would like to stay in their homes but can't afford maintenance. Or allow developers to go beyond village plans for height or other aspects when just apartments, or when it is just condos or apartments.
Yes,
Well,
tell me.
yeah, it's supposed to be stopped.
I was thinking, one thing
We'll stop
that I've
allowing.
heard is,
Yeah, stop
and
allowing
it- that
developers.
is sort of making housing next to the commercial district, so, you know, they butt up next to each other, and so having, like, there's a lot of complaints about, like, the bars, the noise, and so having more regulations, when things abut, because that's making the house closest to the commercial less desirable. You know, like, so you make, here's a house here that you make less desirable, here's another house, here's a couple of houses here. You have now, like, you have limited housing in the first instance, and then housing closest to the commercial district becomes less desirable. You know, so it has.
You think so?
Yeah,
No,
no,
that's
that's,
fine. It depends on, yes.
Well, right, so I guess.
People love to live next to
Yeah.
the bar.
So, no, I only say that, I don't mean to,
No,
because,
right.
so there's a saying, it was like, do you remember Kilburn Towers and University Towers downtown on the lake? So University Towers was there first, and all the residents complained when Kilburn Towers went up, and I was there, and it's because they couldn't see out the windows anymore, they had no view. And it's like, your responsibility as a landowner is to look at the zoning code, and nothing's changed. You knew that a tower could go right next to you, and you bought it anyway. So it was really hard for a municipality to do that, to regulate, because eventually someone's gonna butt up against a commercial district. So I do appreciate that comment, and that can be something to be looked at. It's just eventually, even if you push it off, I just don't know what, I mean, suburbs put up noise barriers, you know, on the highways. So like, there are some things you can do. But the first thing I think everyone should do is check the zoning of the lots next to them.
I mean, that was always the fight we had when you were around UW, right? It's like, they're too loud, they're students, it's just like, well,
Take out parking.
yeah, but.
If you knew it was there, but when it
Sure,
wasn't there,
but if
it
you
was
bought your
built.
house in 1825, and you've lived there ever since, then sure, you have an argument. But if you bought your house since, you know, Downer College opened, 100 whatever years ago, then you knew or should have known that there were going to be issues.
Well, I think that's the point though, is what a lot of people, if you expect people not to turn over and live, because I can say the area I've live in has changed completely, you know, back one way to another over the time that I've lived there. So, you know, I think that if on one hand you're saying we want to keep people in their homes and keep people from having to move out, then you have to look at when you change conditions.
Or
what-
maybe allowed the whole time, but you never implemented it, so now you're
No, but I
pushing.
mean, I think you have a valid point. I think, you know, because the village has changed so much in the past 7 to 10 years, the house that you bought on Jarvis, you know, I mean, you used to look at the old, or bad Walgreens, but, you know, Ace Hardware, whatever used to be over there, the bookstore, it's a completely different neighborhood than the house you bought
Yes.
from 7 or 8 years ago. And I think that, you know, with the CDA you were talking about earlier, it sort of took a break and said that maybe we should see what this looks like and how this affects the village. I think that right now, we find ourselves just sort of in this transition period from old Shorewood that I remember from growing up to the current Shorewood, which is very, very different. But I think there's this adjustment period. We just happen to be living in this adjustment period. But I think we do have to be very careful about folks that live closer to
Yes.
our main drag of Oakland Avenue.
For turnover purposes.
Because,
Yeah,
yeah,
the
because
values will go down, I
their
guess.
values will go down if you put a 4-story house behind their house, or 4-story, 6, whatever that is.
But also our schools are right butted up against the schools butt up against the commercial districts, so there are concerns, like, I think it's very different because, you have a lot of when you look at other cities and studies with liquor licenses and crime and things like that, those are things that the village, I feel like should be considering as a global.
Yes. Yes. If you're looking at turnover, as you mentioned, of long-term residents, that's definitely something that should be looked at.
Since we're in the action section, this again comes back to zoning. We have a zoning code that says 4 stories or whatever the foot number is the maximum for that commercial
So it's
strip.
under 2 years.
And the village gave an exception for the mosaic, like up to 6 stories, even though, or a few weekends, a petition with 600 signatures, was saying, no, we'd like to keep it at 4 stories, and all the neighbors on the surrounding blocks said, please don't go that high. So, you have, just like all the stakeholders have been invited to participate in this survey, I think that, we have to, again, look at those zoning codes, see if they make sense for the village going forward, respect them, and respect the input of the residents as much as our business owners. Yes, there's economics involved, and, if it doesn't make sense except to put up a 6-story or higher building, well then, maybe that doesn't go there. But, and as far as the schools, and I'm sure that maybe in the next couple of years, the North Shore Bank building on Lake Bluff, there'll be something proposed for that. Isn't that intersection like about halfway for kids to go to and from school at Lake Bluff? And so when you're thinking about that, you have, you have to consider what will increase traffic due for safety in that area. So it's,
I agree.
it's not always what's best to make a vibrant village, it's how does that impact kids, how does that impact the neighbors?
So stop going against your zoning regulations.
Take a look at them and then they're adjusted, respect them.
Okay.
Yeah.
But
Or consider, so we're talking about housing on one side and the economic development on the other. I think you have to say, we can't choose one over the other, but they need to be co-equal in terms of when we're considering major changes. We're equally considering housing and economic development, not one preferable over the other.
okay, equal consideration. Anything else for now? All right, I say we stop there.
Yes, we only have 2 more questions to get to, but I feel like we've had a good conversation. I think everyone can know how to answer those two particular questions just over the email to me. I will email out some directions on and deadlines of when I think, those could be submitted. I'll then resend them back out, and then we can hopefully rank them at our next meeting and work towards
When you
consensus.
summarize, can you utilize the discussion here and the comments you received so that when we look at it the next time, you'll see all the things that were discussed, including those that were submitted and those here, and then we can rank them from there?
I will be honest, I cannot promise to get to that before the holiday break for myself,
Oh,
so
yeah, sure.
it might be easier for me to send out, well, I mean, you already have it, you already have, the thing, so just, I guess, work on that. I will try to summarize the best I can in the next 2 days.
I mean, before the next meeting.
Yeah, before the next meeting, for sure. I would
Okay, yeah, that's what I meant.
probably in early January, I can get that back out to everyone, what this has in there, so that you could look at it and add your comments to
Or
it.
just, as we send in our stuff to you, just like you put in here, the
Yep.
next packet would have all the comments submitted to you and the stuff discussed. That's all I meant.
Yes, yep,
Back out in the packet, so that when we talk the next time, if we go through rankings, then we'll have everything in one spot,
Yeah, my goal is to get-
We're submitted, right.
right?
everything
Add.
compiled and submitted, say by like, January 15th or something.
Wait.
Send it back out early in the packet saying, this is what it is, prepare to rank them,
Yes, yes.
so.
Okay,
Can I ask a question on that?
yes,
For
yes.
those of us that might have been too lazy to submit comments, are we supposed to be submitting comments now so you don't have to type that up? Is that the
No,
idea?
they're gonna type it up anyways, she's got 2 minutes, but,
We'll type up what we
If you have
have, but if you have other things.
yep, send them in, as you're
Send them in.
thinking.
Feeling guilty, that's all. That's what I'm asking.
You should, because, yeah, all of us should. You're not alone.
Except for you, I mean, like, clearly, that's why you sat together.
That corner had the angel.
I have a whole new understanding of this now, so this is,
Yes, for seats. Spread the
these
dirt
are
around.
cheating on each other.
What do you got for number two?
What's the census?
Yeah, we gotta talk about
So, yes, let's move on to the next agenda item.
So I provided an update in the packet. We are preparing to ramp up communication and marketing of the census next year.
Good.
Several plan commissioners attended the training that was offered by the census back in October, I believe, or September, I'm forgetting which month it was. But I did outline in there some things, some activities that we've pledged or assigned ourselves to do. Two citizens have also reached out to the village saying that they are interested in helping us do those. So as those activities take place, so we're looking at organizing displays for voting poll locations. The library's offered to give us a board in February. I'll be putting manager memo things together. There was a notice in the tax bill regarding the census, so that was sent to every tax bill. So yeah, various things are happening next year as things come up, or as that, if I see, if the shenanigans goes forward again next year, there's opportunity to have a booth or something there, be looking for volunteers to
That'd be fabulous.
hand out or discuss it with people, so. Just, it's kind of an update saying that things are happening, things will be happening, stay on the lookout for opportunities. If you see things, let me know.
And I just wanted to echo that. I wasn't at the training and I missed that meeting, whatever meeting it was. But the ICC, which is all the mayors and the village presidents in Milwaukee County, there's 22, they think this is one of the most, they talk about it every single 2 weeks, and they think it's one of the most important things that any municipality can do at this time, because it's absolutely critical for resource distribution when it comes to funding, that we have accurate census data. And so it's beneficial to your community to have the most accurate possible. So the more that we can do, since we've been tasked with it as a planning commission, we really want to have good numbers, and